Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
All right, so let's dive into something pretty interesting today, something we hear all the time.
Yeah.
That fat is bad for us, but is it all bad?
Well, that's what we are talking about today.
Is there a good kind of fat?
There is a good kind of fat.
Okay.
The kind that we typically think of as bad is what's called visceral fat, and that is the fat that kind of wraps around your organs deep inside.
Oh, okay.
But there's also subcutaneous fat, which sits right under your skin, and that's the kind that can be protective.
Okay, so not all fat is created equal.
Not all fat is created equal, no.
So when we're talking about fat being bad, we're really talking about visceral fat.
Correct.
Okay, so why is this distinction so important? Why are we doing a deep dive on this today?
Well, the deep dive today is all about a fascinating study that challenges how we think about weight loss.
Okay.
And it suggests that focusing only on your weight or your BMI might not be telling the whole story.
So if two people have the same BMI, but one has more visceral fat than the other, what does that mean for their health?
That's exactly what the study wanted to find out.
Oh.
They used MRI scans to precisely measure different types of fat in a large group of people.
Hold on, MRI scans. I thought those were for looking at injuries and things.
Yeah.
How can they measure fat?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing technology. MRI can actually create detailed images of the inside of your body, allowing researchers to see exactly where and how much fat you're carrying. And this particular study was one of the largest MRI-based weight loss studies ever conducted.
Wow.
They followed over 500 participants for a year and a half.
That's a huge study.
It is.
So what did they learn from all of these scans?
Well, one of the most surprising findings was that the proportion of visceral fat that someone carried was a strong predictor of high triglyceride levels even before they started losing weight.
Triglycerides, remind me what those are again.
Yeah, so triglycerides are a type of fat found in your blood, and high levels are linked to heart disease and other health problems. So the fact that a higher proportion of visceral fat was linked to higher triglycerides, regardless of BMI, is a pretty big deal.
So you're saying that you could be relatively thin, have what's considered a healthy BMI, and still be at higher risk for these health problems if you have a lot of visceral fat.
That is exactly right.
That's concerning.
It is concerning, but it's also empowering because it means that there's something we can do about it.
Okay.
The study also found that the absolute amount of visceral fat was linked to inflammation and blood sugar control, both of which are major factors in developing diabetes.
Oh, so this is huge for people who might be pre-diabetic or even have diabetes.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how does this all connect to weight loss then?
That's where the really interesting plus comes in.
Okay.
Over the 18 months, the participants lost a significant amount of visceral fat.
Okay.
And this led to improvements in their triglyceride levels, blood sugar control, and even liver function.
Wow. So losing visceral fat seems to have a real impact on your overall health. What's the difference between like losing visceral fat proportionally versus just losing the absolute amount of it?
That's a great question. The study found that both were beneficial.
Okay.
But losing the absolute amount of visceral fat seemed to have a stronger impact on certain things like leptin levels and insulin resistance.
Now, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, so can you explain leptin levels and insulin resistance?
Absolutely. So leptin is a hormone that helps regulate your appetite, and insulin is a hormone that helps your body use glucose for energy.
Okay.
When you have insulin resistance, your body doesn't respond to insulin properly, which can lead to type 2 diabetes.
Got it.
So the fact that losing visceral fat can positively impact these hormones is huge.
That's really interesting.
It means that losing weight in the right way can actually help prevent serious health problems like diabetes.
So it's not just about losing weight, it's about losing the right kind of weight.
You got it.
This is all fascinating.
Yeah.
But it also raises a lot of questions for me. How do I know how much visceral fat I have?
That's a great question.
And how do I target it specifically for weight loss?
Yeah, those are excellent questions.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not as simple as stepping on a scale, how do I figure this out?
Right.
How do I measure this hidden fat?
Well, figuring out how much visceral fat you have can be tricky. You know, it's not as simple as stepping on a scale.
Yeah, so ditch the scale.
Yeah.
What would be like the best way to measure it?
Well, there are a few methods, but MRI scans are considered like the gold standard for accuracy.
Yeah.
However, they can be expensive and not always readily available.
Not exactly something you can just do at home.
Right.
Are there any other options out there?
There are simply methods like measuring your waist circumference.
Oh.
which can give you a rough estimate, but for a more precise assessment,
Yeah.
you might need to talk to your doctor about other methods like bioelectrical impedance analysis,
Okay.
which measures body composition using a weak electrical current.
Okay, so let's say you do find out that you have a higher proportion of visceral fat than you'd like.
Yeah.
What can you do about it? Is all weight loss created equal? Or do you need to focus on specific strategies to target that deep belly fat?
That's where the study's insights become really practical.
Okay.
They found that losing even a modest amount of weight, particularly visceral fat, led to significant improvements in several metabolic markers.
So you don't need to lose a ton of weight to see the benefits.
Exactly.
That's encouraging.
And they also found that certain lifestyle changes were particularly effective in reducing visceral fat.
Like what? Spill the beans. Give us the secrets.
One of the most impactful interventions they looked at was the Mediterranean diet.
I've heard so much about the Mediterranean diet, but what makes it so special for reducing this kind of fat?
Well, it emphasizes whole, unprocessed foods like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, and healthy fats like olive oil.
Okay.
It's also lower in red meat and processed foods, which are often high in saturated fat and added sugars.
Gotcha. So basically, it's a delicious and balanced way of eating
Yeah,
that happens to be great for reducing visceral fat.
that's it.
Sign me up.
And it's not just about diet, physical activity plays a crucial role as well.
Okay.
The study found that combining a healthy diet with regular exercise was the most effective way to shed that harmful belly fat.
Okay, so time to dust off the running shoes.
Yeah.
But what kind of exercise are we talking here?
Right.
Do we need to be hitting the gym every day?
Not necessarily. Even moderate intensity exercise like brisk walking or cycling can make a difference.
Okay.
The key is consistency.
Yeah.
Aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days of the week.
That sounds doable.
Right.
So it's not about drastic measures or crash diets. It's about making sustainable lifestyle changes.
Yeah,
That you can actually stick with
you got it.
long term.
Yeah. Small changes can lead to big results over time, and the benefits go beyond just losing fat. Exercise also improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, and boosts your overall mood.
Wow. So many wins.
Yeah.
This is all starting to make sense now, but I have to ask, were there any limitations to the study that we should be aware of?
That's an important point to bring up. While the study was large and well conducted, it primarily involved participants from a workplace setting
Okay.
with a predominantly male workforce.
So the findings might not be directly applicable to women
That's a
or
possibility.
people in different environments.
Right. More research is needed to confirm whether the results hold true for other populations.
Got it.
And another limitation is that the study only focused on abdominal fat.
Okay.
It would be interesting to see future research exploring the relationship between total body fat distribution
Yeah.
and various health markers.
So we've unpacked a lot of information about visceral fat
Yeah.
and its impact on our health.
We have.
What are your biggest takeaways from this study?
Okay.
What do you think is the most important for our listeners to understand here?
For me, one of the most significant takeaways is the importance of moving beyond simple BMI calculations when assessing health risks.
So don't just focus on the number on the scale?
Exactly. This study highlights the crucial role of body composition,
Yeah.
particularly the proportion and location of visceral fat in predicting metabolic health.
It's like we need to shift our focus from just losing weight to losing the right kind of weight.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the good news is that we have the tools and knowledge to do that.
Yeah.
By adopting a healthy diet, incorporating regular exercise, and potentially working with healthcare professionals to assess and monitor our body composition, we can take control of our metabolic health and reduce our risk of serious diseases.
This has been so eye-opening. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand the nuances of fat and its impact on our health. It's not just about being thin or having a certain BMI. It's about what's happening inside our bodies. And I think that's a really important takeaway from this.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the key messages to take away from this deep dive is that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more we understand about our own bodies and how different types of fat
Right.
can influence our health, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions.
Absolutely. So what's the next step for someone listening to this who's thinking, okay, I get it. Visceral fat is bad news.
Right.
But where do I go from here? What's the practical advice that we can give them?
I always recommend talking to your doctor or a registered dietitian.
Okay.
They can help you assess your individual risk factors
Right.
and develop a personalized plan that's right for you.
That makes sense. So it's not about trying to diagnose yourself or jump on the latest fad diet.
Right.
It's about getting professional guidance.
Exactly. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference over time.
Yeah.
Start by incorporating more whole, unprocessed foods into your diet, like those emphasized in the Mediterranean diet that we talked about, and find ways to move your body regularly. Even if it's just going for a walk or taking the stairs instead of the elevator.
Those are great tips. It's about making sustainable changes that you can stick with long term.
Absolutely.
And it may be ditching the scale in favor of other methods for assessing body composition, right?
I think that's a wise idea.
Yeah.
The scale can be misleading, especially when it comes to understanding the type of weight you're losing. Focus on how you feel, your energy levels, and the positive changes you're making to your lifestyle.
This has been a fantastic deep dive.
It has been.
Is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up? Any final thoughts for our listeners?
I think the most important message is one of empowerment.
Okay.
We have more control over our health than we often realize.
Yeah.
By understanding the science and taking proactive steps, we can reduce our risk of serious diseases and live healthier, more fulfilling lives.
I love that it's not about being perfect. It's about making informed choices and taking action.
You got it.
Well said.
And remember, this journey of discovery is ongoing. Stay curious, keep learning, and never be afraid to ask questions.
If you're interested in learning more about this study and its findings, you can find a link in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more fascinating explorations into the world of health and science.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To-Do Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.